My name is Emily Carter, and I grew up in the quiet city of Portland, Oregon. My life had always been ordinary: school, friends, and family dinners at the same kitchen table every evening. But when I turned 17, things began to change. My grades started slipping in math, and my parents, worried about my future, decided I needed a private tutor. That's when Daniel Miller came into my life. Daniel was in his late 20s, a graduate student who lived in a modest house near downtown Portland. He wasn't intimidating like most math tutors I had imagined. Instead, he had a warm smile and a calm personality. His way of teaching made me feel less anxious about the numbers on the page and more curious about how everything worked. At first, our sessions were strictly academic. I would arrive with my heavy backpack, sit at his dining table, and he'd patiently explain each equation. Sometimes, he'd make little jokes when I got frustrated, lightening the atmosphere. He seemed genuinely invested in my progress, which made me feel valued. Over time, I started looking forward to those afternoons, not because of the algebra, but because of the person teaching it. One Saturday afternoon, he called me and said, "Emily, would you mind coming over to my house tomorrow instead of the library? It'll be quieter, and I think we can cover more material." I agreed without hesitation. My parents trusted him, and so did I. The next day, I arrived at his house. It was cozy, filled with books stacked on shelves and plants near the windows. A faint smell of coffee lingered in the air. He welcomed me with a warm smile and offered me a cup of hot cocoa before we began. That small gesture felt personal, almost like we were friends rather than just tutor and student. As the weeks passed, our sessions at his house became routine. But something unspoken started to grow between us. I noticed how his eyes softened when he encouraged me, how he sometimes paused as if choosing his words carefully, and how he seemed to listen to me in a way no one else did. One afternoon, after a particularly tough lesson, I groaned and dropped my pencil on the table. "I'll never understand calculus," I muttered. Daniel chuckled, leaning back in his chair. "You're smarter than you think, Emily. You just don't see it yet." His words stayed with me. No teacher had ever spoken to me like that, with such confidence, as if he truly believed in me. That day, when I was about to leave, it started raining heavily. The sky had turned dark, and thunder rolled through the city. I hesitated at the door, and he said, "You can wait here until it clears up. No point in getting soaked." So, I stayed. We sat by the window, sipping cocoa, watching the raindrops race down the glass. We talked about books, music, dreams, and fears. I told him how I always felt invisible at school, how no one really noticed me. He listened without judgment. Then he said something I'll never forget. "Emily, you're not invisible. You just haven't met the right people who can see you for who you are." For a long moment, silence filled the room, broken only by the sound of rain. My heart raced. I realized then that this connection between us wasn't just academic anymore, it was something deeper, something I couldn't explain. Weeks turned into months, and our bond grew stronger. He continued to push me academically, but beyond that, he encouraged me to believe in myself. When I aced my final exam, I rushed to his house with the results in my hand. He looked at me with pride, and I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. "You did it," he said softly. "No," I replied, smiling, "we did it." In that moment, I knew everything had changed. What started as a simple tutoring arrangement had turned into a story about encouragement, trust, and an unspoken bond. Looking back now, I realize it wasn't about math or exams. It was about finding someone who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself, someone who reminded me that I was capable of more than I thought. That summer, I grew, not just as a student, but as a person. And it was all because of one tutor who opened his home, his time, and his heart to help me see the best version of myself. And that's how everything changed.